So Donkey Kong Bonanza came out on Thursday. I did a quick video early on the day before, just kind of going through the opening of the game, just giving some quick immediate thoughts and impressions as I was experiencing it. But there were some in the comment section who were wondering if I would then circle back after I had more time with the game and just give some of my overall thoughts with it. Well, I wasn't sure how much time I'd be able to necessarily spend with the game over the next few days after its release. Turns out this is a game that I've actually had a hard time putting down. So while I have seen a lot of these perfect scores going around for Donkey Kong Bonanza, I'm not quite there with that, the scoring for it. It is a very good game. It is really fun, and I just wanted to go over some of my just overall thoughts with the game, as I think I'm getting close to the end of it now. The skill tree is filled out. I've unlocked a lot of stuff. I've collected a lot of bananas, and I just kind of wanted to come back here and just kind of reflect on what I think about the game in the so many hours that I've played. That's the thing. It doesn't really have any tracking for hours right now, so I'm just kind of guessing on how far in I am necessarily, but I think I have enough experience here with it to really give some, I guess you'd call them impressions and almost review. So if you guys enjoy the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and let me know what you think about Donkey Kong Bonanza down in the comments so far. To start, you do play as Donkey Kong, go figure, and you're accompanied by Pauline, who does play a pretty significant role in the game overall. Now, the whole point of it is you have these two characters who, while they do have different goals, they do align, all right? So Pauline wants to go back to the surface, and in order to do so, you have to go further and further into this planet, just breaking through multiple layers, which they do count by hundreds, really. So you'll find yourself layer 500, layer 600 or something. But really, that's world 5 and 6 and so on. And while she's trying to get to the center to then make a wish to then go back to the surface, DK, his entire motivation, just bananas. When you go through and you'll talk to different people in the game, different elders, they'll ask you, what's your motivation? You could choose between going to the surface or just bananas. So I'm just always picking bananas. It's very straightforward. DK is a very simple Kong in this regard, but by collecting bananas and going through these different worlds, it does keep DK going. It's something he wants to do, is explore and find more bananas, and then that works in Pauline's favor. And they do work together consistently throughout this game. Now, when you first take control, you are given abilities to sort of break the world around you, but they do roll it out slowly to you, which is a good idea, because as I was going through and I started to get more and more abilities and ways to kind of manipulate the world around me, some of the controls did feel a bit cumbersome at first. For example, you may want to change what A and B does, whether it's jumping or punching. You definitely want to change some of the stuff around in the settings early on, because otherwise you might get used to one configuration just in general, right? So here, I pretty much stuck with the default settings. I played around with some of the camera, whether it's inverted or normal, just to make sure that was set up correctly. But for the most part, when you start, you can jump, you can punch forward, punch up, punch down, grab chunks of the world just out of the wall or out of the ground, and you can throw it, you can surf around on it. There is a lot of freedom for how you really just destroy the world, and in doing so, you'll find all kinds of collectibles. All the footage I'm going to show you here is mostly from the beginning world, that first world that you find. I want to try to keep as many spoilers out of this as possible, which does also include some of the worlds you'll come across, because while you're going deeper and deeper into this planet, into this world, you're going to come across some genuinely unique and interesting worlds, which then also will at times tie into it the transformations that Nintendo showed us in those previews. So they showed us a much stronger DK in that form that I actually ran across in the initial footage that I had the day before release. But then they also showed off things like the ostrich that can fly. There's a zebra. And I'll leave it there because, yes, there are other transformations, and I think a couple of them are pretty fun. There's definitely an interesting one in there that I was not necessarily expecting. And in a way, it kind of reminded me of Banjo-Kazooie, you could say. And that's the thing about Donkey Kong Bonanza. Even Nintendo themselves kind of have a hard time placing it in one genre, which makes sense because I do see it as a number of different games kind of mashed together, making its own unique thing. So Nintendo calls it like a 3D platformer action game. I guess that's the best way to do so. But while there is platforming, it doesn't necessarily seem to be as much of a focus compared to you just solving a lot of problems with Donkey Kong's fists. Like, seriously, you just punch through a lot of stuff. You do solve a lot of problems in very interesting ways with the destruction mechanic. There was one thing that I really liked, I thought was cool. It was almost this puzzle that was also based on like kind of physics and stuff, where ice cream was being dropped from one end, and you had to transfer this goo by punching it from one square to the other to make 2 ramps, so then you would then bounce this ice cream coming down into one location and build up a sundae. But in order to do that, you had to get it just right, and it was a pretty cool idea there. You also have bombs that can deform parts of the ground that then makes other ramps, for example, spiked balls, so you can get past that. It's just they're coming up with a lot of fun and interesting ways for you to manipulate that world around you in your favor. And in order to do so, they do have things set up that I guess you could look at as almost shrines out of The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, or Breath of the Wild. You'll find almost these doors, and when you punch it, it'll activate, and it'll just take you to a whole nother place. It like teleports you there. So in a way, it's something they can create just completely separate from any of these worlds and curate completely around maybe a certain element or ability that you have for puzzle solving. And in doing so, you'll get a banana, and they'll have other bananas kind of hidden around it. It's a really fun way to kind of break up any of these worlds, and you could even say kind of the monotony of the environment or the puzzles. It's like, nope, here's a curveball completely. We'll take you over here, and all of a sudden, it's like a bunch of conveyor belts and a race to the finish, and it's just... It's a fun change of pace and a way to be even more creative on top of this. Now, people have said that it's very much reminiscent of Mario Odyssey, and it makes sense. I mean, this is a part of the Mario Odyssey team that's worked to create this. Even like when I had my kids playing this, they went, oh, this is like Mario Odyssey. Immediately thought of that. So I guess it's the feel of the game, the look, some of the visual styling. Like there is a lot of essence from Mario Odyssey put into this. So you have Zelda, you have Mario. People have said Red Faction because of the destruction elements, which, yeah, I could see that too, obviously. And that's something that I think is really cool that this game has leaned into, is we see a lot of games now that are very pretty. They look really cool, but there's not a lot of interactivity with the world around you, and it's mostly on purpose because that's the way that the studios can make almost photorealistic worlds. You're not bashing through or blowing up the environment with different things. It's mostly static. Here, though, it's completely the opposite direction, and I do like that. I do. While the performance has come up as a big thing online, which, after playing through it, feels a little overblown, to be honest. Like, some people think this game runs at 10 frames per second most of the time, and it's just not the case. The game does target 60 frames per second, and to me, it's like many of these other like high-profile console games. It'll hit its target frame rate 90% of the time, and the other 10% is like different drops that happen. This weird boss battle that has a move that does tank the frame rate to 30. It just cuts it in half. And I think a lot of that has to do with some of the physics-based elements to this. I don't think the GPU side is being taxed as much. And I think a lot of the limitations comes down to the CPU, which we know is underclocked. So when a lot of destruction is happening, as they did detail in their like developer interviews, it's all voxel based. I can see how that would start to have the CPU struggle under load. And again, just different elements where, for example, the map, when you look at it and you zoom out, you do feel some stuttering and some slowdown there with the frame rate. It hasn't been anything, though, that's really happened outside of that boss battle that I'm alluding to here with that one move, to where I felt like it was affecting things in the game. And that's saying something, considering all you're really doing is blowing up and breaking a lot of stuff constantly. So if the frame rate was going to be a problem, and a consistent problem, it would certainly be affecting gameplay to where it's almost unplayable. But that's just not really the case. So when you do run through these different worlds, while there is a skeleton that's unbreakable. If you dig far enough, you'll find it. It is pretty much coated in mostly destructible stuff. So in doing so, you'll find all kinds of bananas, which is the main collectible. You'll find gems, which is like the secondary collectible that can then be turned in for other bananas. And then you have like these fossils. The fossils are used to then turn in for a different equipment. So you can buy pants for DK or ties. You can buy outfits for Pauline. And these all have different passive effects: swimming faster, taking less damage, maybe from lightning or lava. So there is some thoughtfulness there of what you're buying will then aid you in that world specifically. The issue I kind of have with this part, though, is it's kind of annoying to have to switch out your equipment, because I would think, hey, you just attach it to a pause menu, you go in, there's equipment, you change it out, you video game it up there a bit. No, you have to go to certain spots, whether it's rest spots that you just create, and it has like a wardrobe cabinet there, at which point you can change it out. But you have to find these specific places, whether it's at the store or at these camps that you make. So it's not something that can be done on the fly, which, again, the passive elements here to these pieces of equipment would make me maybe want to change them out frequently if different things are happening. And it's a little odd that that's not available to you right then and there. Otherwise, though, you'll also be going around and buying different items for maps, which you can also find in treasure chests, that then will lead you to, say different fossils from there. There's also like these really rare ancient fossils you can find. There's just a lot of stuff to collect in this game. Now, the thing that I really like, and I hope this is something that maybe they have in mind for the next big 3D Mario game, the collectibles with the big bananas. Like, there is a purpose to seeking them out. And that's what I really like. So when you get a banana, it then goes into a meter, and you have to fill up a 5 banana meter. When you do, you get a skill point. So if you stay back and just start trying to find as many bananas as possible in each world before going to the next, you'll fill out the skill tree pretty quickly, and it does make you feel somewhat stronger or more capable. Like, your punching power is one thing, or the number of hearts that you have, or even just outright abilities, or how effective those abilities are. And I mean, really, from there, as you get transformations, those also get skill trees. So there is a lot of stuff to power up and progress through here, and it all ties back to the main collectible. Basically, you're not just collecting bananas to collect them and maybe then just go on to the next world, like you're opening a gate that says you need 30 bananas or however many moons from Mario Odyssey, as people like to make that comparison. No, you're getting bananas to make DK and his transformations stronger. So I think this is a collectathon type game that has a ton of drive and motivation to find those collectibles. Visually speaking, I mean, you can see for yourself here in some of this footage. I think the game looks awesome, though, in motion. And yes, a lot of it does mostly come from the art style that they've gone with here, but also like the animation work is really, really good. I think DK is incredibly expressive without having to say much of anything. And a lot of that comes back to kind of the facial animations that he'll convey during different things. Pauline, same kind of way, but she is fully voiced from what I've seen, so it's a bit easier for her to kind of communicate there with all of that. Like, animations for her are very good. It's just, overall, I just think it's a very good looking game, either on a big OLED or in handheld mode. I think in handheld mode, the game probably handles the frame rate a bit better, some of those dips that'll happen, but when you blow it up on a larger OLED display like I'm playing it on, we just don't have that situation Nintendo had last generation. Still kind of getting used to it here, though, to be honest, where it's not like I don't say a blurry mess, but like really, really blurry on a larger screen. And it's just, you might as well play it in handheld mode with the Switch 1 just to at least get a better looking game, especially if you have something like the Switch OLED. Not the case here. Like, this is an awesome looking game either way, but I think I enjoyed it more in docked mode on my OLED display. I also think the control and the feel of the game is really, really good. As I mentioned before, it's targeting 60 FPS, and just the input, the movement, like the jumping, it all feels like you have total control over it. You're not necessarily slipping off platforms or feeling like there's a delay when you press a button. It's a very tight and concise control scheme attached to this. Now, I mentioned that Pauline does help DK throughout the game, and she does play a pivotal role with her singing ability, which she's very good at singing, but she's shy to sing in front of large groups of people, right? It's just like that public speaking kind of thing going on there. But she will help you break certain unbreakable materials, I'll say, in the world through her singing. And you can just access that with L. It'll also show you different parts on the map that maybe you have set up for maybe treasures or your objective. And she also participates in these large bonanzas that happen when you get enough, we'll say, parts of the record to then unlock different DK transformations. And it's a really fun thing that happens there. DK starts pounding his chest and Pauline starts singing, and it just has this big like climactic scene of DK finally transforming. It's really, really fun stuff. I think the difficulty so far is also kind of reminiscent of Mario Odyssey for better or worse. And the worst, I guess, would be it's if you just mainline it and go through a lot of the boss battles and the bananas that are right in front of you, it's going to be a pretty easy game. I haven't really had any issue with the boss battles, like, at all. There was one that was maybe a bit more complex, and I kind of rolled right through it after you figure out what you have to do. But for the most part, there were a couple boss battles I did where I just punched straight forward, and the thing was over in less than a minute. And I thought that was phase one. It's like, nope, that's the whole boss battle. It's like, okay, yeah, maybe this game kind of is, it's like Mario Odyssey when it comes to even the boss battles there, because those are pretty easy too. So I wouldn't go into it thinking you're going to find some crazy boss battles. At least I haven't found any so far. There was, I'll say, one where it was multi-part that took place throughout the whole world. I thought that was cool, but it's not like that was a very common thing. So just keep that in mind. I would look at this more as something you're going to have fun with, exploring the world, solving puzzles, and just breaking a bunch of the landscape with DK. That said, I technically haven't beaten the game yet, and maybe the final boss turns everything around for me in that regard. What I assume is going to happen is after I beat the game, you're going to just have more difficult bananas to go back and get. I will say, I think I haven't looked up how many. There must be a lot, because in that first world that I initially went through, I said, okay, I have like 13 or 14 bananas. How many could there be? And I look, and it's like, oh, there's 43 of them on this one level alone. So that's missing like 30 of them. So yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of bananas. I might look up. I'm just curious when I beat the game how many exactly, but I feel like it's going to be very reminiscent of Mario Odyssey, where you realize there's several hundred more moons that you have to get to 100% the game after you beat it. I guess the final thing here, though, the big question, is Donkey Kong Bonanza really that good? And my answer would be yes. Well, okay, so I wouldn't say it's a 10 out of 10. 9.5 out of 10. Maybe it's close. I mean, this is a really fun, unique, and interesting experience so far all the way through. So much so that I've done that thing where I'm playing and playing and playing, and I don't realize how much time I've just spent with the game, right? And it does a really good job of just stringing all these levels together to where it doesn't feel like there's a really hard cut. You know, like, so with Mario Odyssey, again, the comparisons there, I understand. You go between worlds by taking the Odyssey of the ship or whatever to the next place. So there's an obvious cut there, whereas with DK, you just keep diving. And I think it strings everything together very, very nicely. So it is a game where you can sit down and get lost for hours in it. And to me, that when it doesn't feel old after playing for several hours on end like that, and you just kind of get lost in it, yeah, then I do think you have the makings of a really, really good game. So I fully recommend it. I think it's awesome. Some people have said it's their favorite 3D platformer already. I don't think I'm there yet, but it's definitely a top tier 3D platformer action experience. And I mean, it's been a good way for Nintendo to start off the Switch too. Mario Kart World rolling right into Donkey Kong Bonanza. Two games that I think are still going to be a lot of fun for people years down the line. So yeah, easy recommendation here with Donkey Kong Bonanza, especially if you're an early adopter right now for the Switch too. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Where do you land with Donkey Kong Bonanza? Are you enjoying it? Are you not? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.